And welcome into the Thursday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Fraser here with you on this Thursday morning. Ian Safar is out for the next couple of days, and Fraser, Dr. Crane, with us the next couple of days.
Nice.
Joe, how we doing? What's going on?
Well, I mean, usually you just answer that. You say, yeah, fine, everything's good. But I'm just going to tell the listeners what I told you. Katie cleaned out our Keurig with some kind of weird cleaner, and it was like sitting there. And then this morning, I'm like, well, if I rinse it out, it should be fine. So I rinsed it out. Then I made a coffee. And then I was driving, and I took a sip of the coffee, and it tasted really weird. And I'm pretty sick to my stomach right now, and I might hurl on the air. That's how I'm doing.
That's how we're starting things off today here on the program. So we'll see how that goes. At least it's not gout. It is something else.
That is true.
That we're dealing with. We look for the positives here on this program.
Yeah, that's a good point. A non-gout illness.
Now, some people have said sometimes we're too negative, so I've tried to look at the positives a little bit more.
Oh, who says that?
Well, every now and then we'll run across some Titans fans that are like, "You guys are too negative." It's like, well, you're right. There's a lot to be positive about with the Tennessee Titans. That's our mistake.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up the Titans. I'm feeling even closer to hurling.
But Jim DK is looking good. Good to know.
That's
good
true.
to know out there. Nick, how we doing? What's going on?
Fantastic, guys. I was telling Robbie as I walked in, Joe, I'm a morning guy, so you're getting the best out of me right now.
Fraser's been up since 3:30.
Okay.
Fraser's ready to go.
So so by the time you get to chasing Big Joe, you're XJ on the decline a little bit.
Well, that was a big adjustment for me. You know, when we went from 9 to 11 to noon to 3, I was like, well, I'm going to have to switch my schedule around a little bit.
Late.
It is a little late for me. Normally I'm in the afternoon winding down, making sure what's for dinner type thing.
Yeah.
Now we're up in the morning. I was rolling pizza dough this morning.
He's already rolled dough this morning.
Yeah.
Fraser's been more productive by 6 a.m. than most of America will be all day.
That is outstanding. For some reason, it doesn't make my stomach get less sick, but
Yeah.
but I'm proud of you. And 3:30 in the freaking morning, dude. Like no
The
matter
guy's a
what.
stud.
No matter what, really. Yeah, I normally average around 4 o'clock, 4:30 for a wake-up call.
Man, see, and we cannot sit here at any point and feel sorry for
I
ourselves
know.
when we're dragging ass in the morning. You know,
Always remember, somebody's got it worse than you.
that's right. That is right.
That's good life advice to live by.
I'm
there.
sure someone is more nauseous than me right now in the world.
I'm
somewhere.
sure there is. I'm sure there's someone there that is that. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. We'll have Predators assistant coach Derek Mackenzie at 7:30. They're in Philly tonight before coming back home this weekend on Saturday. Charles Robinson for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock from Yahoo Sports. We will get into the Titans and all things NFL with him, so looking forward to that. Joe, some news on the college football front. A huge weekend for the local teams this weekend. You got Vanderbilt on the road at Texas. You got Tennessee at home in what is essentially a playoff game between the Vols and Oklahoma coming up on Saturday. You have Arch Manning, who has been in concussion protocol, that has now found his way back out on the field this week, and he is practicing. He's still in the protocol, and his status against Vanderbilt is still uncertain, but he is out there on the field. So we'll see what that looks like. On the Tennessee front, Jermod McCoy, it was pointed out yesterday, is on the field in pads, but still not going to play this weekend against Oklahoma. So they will still not have McCoy. There was some concern about Colton Hood heading into the game for the Vols, and he does not even show up on the injury report. So that's good news for them.
No, that's a big development. I thought that there was a decent chance he might miss this one. But, yeah, look, on both of those things, first of all, I mean, you do see sometimes concussion protocol concussions, and a week later. You don't see it a lot. You see it sometimes. The fact that he's practicing, I mean, that's I guess that would probably point toward likelihood of Arch playing. But, I mean, I guess I've seen that before too, where you get out there, and again, it may not even be in the first week, and then you still aren't cleared to play. So keep an eye on that one. The Jermod McCoy, we've been talking about it, and it just, I wonder if now you have a break. Can you get through this game, get a win, and are you going to get a heck of an add to your roster, down the stretch? It seems like that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Nakos put it out there yesterday that he's still pushing to get back in the fold here for Tennessee. Obviously we're running out of time at this point. It's November coming up on Saturday, November the 1st. and you're in the hot point of the season. You got another bye week coming up. You got New Mexico State, Florida on the road, and then Vanderbilt. So particularly, obviously if you win the game against Oklahoma coming up on Saturday, there's still going to be some very meaningful games for Tennessee down the stretch. And if they got him back, and particularly if he was anywhere close to full strength back, that would be large for a Tennessee defense that has given up big play after big play after big play so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the way Hood has played, you put McCoy over there, how different is that from, they've basically been picking on the other side.
Yes.
Redmond. I mean, they've been so
or Boo Carter.
Well, yeah, certainly. Like, hey, come try to tackle us and don't tackle us.
He's not gonna. He thinks he's playing two-hand touch out there.
So that could be a big game changer. And yeah, it's like the Vanderbilt game. Again, I guess if you lose this week, then who knows, right? I mean, if you lose this week, you're pretty much out of the playoff, I would say. And so maybe we never see him. You know? Although I still, I don't know. I guess,
is he enough of a slam dunk of a higher first round pick where he can go the whole year on a torn ACL and not play and still be that at the end of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. You revert back to his film from 2024, which is very good. And then the testing probably tells a story on that, right? Like if it's fantastic, then maybe. But yeah, I would think that. And look, I think that it would impress people too, by the way. It's true that teams, when it comes down to it, guys opting out, all that stuff, it's so normal now and everything. Talent wins. But I do think that if you're a guy like him and you're like, I actually want to come help my team and play with my guys, I think that helps you. I think GMs and coaches like that, so that could actually be a benefit for him. You are obviously putting yourself in harm's way, but I think that could be a benefit as long as you don't get hurt again.
Joe, college football is a beautiful sport. And one of the things that makes it beautiful is there's a lot of people involved with it. We got public universities out there. We got a lot of people weighing in on thoughts and different situations around the country when it comes to college football. And we saw yet another example of this yesterday, Joe. Again, the LSU job is open. As we know, Brian Kelly, our good friend, gone from LSU. And now they've got a coaching search that they have got to embark on now here. And Governor Jeff Landry down there in Louisiana has thrown out at least one person, Joe, that he does not think is going to be selecting this next head coach. And that is the LSU athletic director, Scott Woodward. And he talks about, we got a pattern going on here. He wrote up a contract, cost Texas A&M $77 million. Right now, we got $53 million. We're going to have to pay this Brian Kelly dude because this contract this guy wrote up. So you know what? He's not going to do it. He was asked directly if Scott Woodward, the athletic director, is going to hire the next head coach and make the decision. And Jeff Landry, the governor in Louisiana, said, quote, "No, I can tell you right now, Scott Woodward is not selecting the next coach. Hell, I'll let Donald Trump select it before I let him do it." So there you go, AD. You are not selecting the next coach, according to the governor.
We got to hear this too. Well, before the show's end, because his Cajun accent is just absolutely amazing. When
it's pretty good
too.
Yeah,
I tell you, I'll say. I can't do it, but it's amazing.
That athletic director's coming nowhere near the next coach.
So then he said like the board, and then later someone interviewed like one of the board members, like, "Oh, I didn't know we were supposed to do that." Oh, really? Okay. It's my goodness. Honestly,
this guy's writing up contracts that are just crazy expensive.
It's hilarious. It's another just beautiful chapter for college football. Is it possible that all that craziness, like Lane looks at that and says, "You know what? I think I'm just gonna hotty toddy and just mind my own business." I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he likes it more.
I don't know. Did you see any of the Lane Kiffin documentary that's been out there?
I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen some pretty good bits and pieces, like some clips from it on TikTok, because I'm a cool kid on TikTok.
Right.
And like, it is interesting. His family, I think, is going to play a big factor in all this. Like, they love it at Ole Miss. His kids are talking about basically how they have their dad back at Ole Miss. And he went on, I can't remember where it was last week, if it was McAfee, if it's Feinbaum, where it was. And he was talking about, like, money And people say this stuff all the time. It's like, well, money, like I'm not making decisions based off money. But like if you watch his interview last week, like I kind of believe him. Like he's not making decisions just based purely off of money. So I do think there is at least a decent shot that he's going to stay at Ole Miss. I mean, one of the things they talked about in the documentary, like he's pretty close taking the Auburn job, and he was basically like, I'm not saying I was absolutely going to take it, but I mean, I was thinking about it. And then his daughter was basically like, I just got here and now you're going to go? No. So I'm very interested to see how all that plays out.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think it's a slam dunk at all. It's just about obviously he wants to win national championship, just like anyone in that profession.
Yeah.
He keeps moving up, and the question is very simple to me. It's like if you believe you can do it there, and you think you can sustain it, what you're doing, then to me that's what's more impressive, doing that at a place that's never done it, or just being like the fourth coach out of 5 to win one at LSU. You know?
It's a good question.
Or again, Florida too. I know Florida fans are screaming, "Why the hell do you people think LSU is a better job?" And it's like the whole thing is like, does LSU? Is it true that like LSU is so built in with the top talent around Louisiana? Is that going to stay the case? I don't know. They're both great jobs. They're both obviously like better jobs. There's bigger budgets, much bigger budgets and all that stuff. There's more resources than Ole Miss. But if he has resources for players that can compete with anybody else, well, that's really what it's about.
Yep. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are off and running on the program here today. Rexrode has played matchmaker when it comes to college football and the athletic. We'll go through some of that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. College football has a lot of jobs open at the moment. More that I'm sure are coming down the pike here as we get through the rest of the regular season. And Rexrode has played a little matchmaking game at the Athletic that we're going to discuss now. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind on all this. First off, according to some reports, Matt Rule may have signed an extension at Nebraska through 2030. So we'll see if that information ends up being accurate, but that's kind of the buzz this morning. So we'll see what that looks like with the Nebraska job, which is a big deal because obviously he is a name that has been connected to Penn State very often in all this. So we'll see what ends up happening on that front. But Joe, take our listeners through here with the exercise that you've done at the Athletic here and what sparked this idea and what's going to be already a crazy college football coaching search that I think could get even crazier here in the next month.
We got 8 Power 4 jobs open right now. So I'm trying to think, do I have those? LSU is now open. Florida, Penn State, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, UCLA, Oklahoma State, and Stanford. I threw 5 more in there. Now they won't all necessarily become open. There are others that may. I mean, I didn't do. There's a few more out there that people. I mean, like Baylor could be a thing. Like there's a lot that potentially people talking NC State. I mean, it's all over the place. This might just get really wild. But I threw these 5 into the mix: Auburn, Kentucky, Florida State, Michigan State, Wisconsin.
All reasonable.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think more than not, I would guess all of them will. But I don't know. There's talk about like Fickle in Wisconsin, and there's talk about Michigan State not having the money. I can't. And then I guess it's possible like with Stoops too in Kentucky, but I just feel like that's ending along with Norvell and Hugh. I don't know. I guess Hugh could hang on, but
he could.
And
if he beats Vanderbilt, a long way to keeping his job.
That is true. Can you finally beat Diego Pavia? But anyway, I just went with those 13 jobs. But then you also have to open jobs up if you take someone away from a Power 4 job. So I actually ended up filling like 15 jobs. But the big ones here, first of all, one that I think is happening. And I'll tell you, as a Virginia Tech football fan, I'm excited. My brother, Virginia Tech grad, is excited. Some of his buddies aren't excited, and I think they're stupid. And that would be James Franklin. There's some serious smoke about this. So, I mean, I like it anyway. James Franklin's been recruiting the hell out of Virginia for a while. Really, he started to plunder what the kids from Hampton Roads that Virginia Tech used to get. And I just think this is a place that needs someone aggressive. This is a place that needs, recruiting and all that stuff to ramp up. The whole knock on him that can't win the big game. Okay, well, if you're Virginia Tech, you can get back to winning 9-10 games. Okay. And by the way, in the ACC, he might be able to win the big game.
Might be,
right?
Yeah.
Like, so I love that one. I think it's happened. Well, I don't know about if I think it's happened. I hope it happens. There's some smoke around there. I put Lane with LSU.
Okay.
So, and I'm with you. I think Lane to LSU is far from a sure thing. I think Lane staying at Ole Miss would be awesome to see. The governor may have thrown a curveball yesterday to everybody unwittingly. Oh, come on down here and work for us. I'll tell you what to do. What? But
you could coach, but you have to do it for $18 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pay you per victory.
We're gonna have a lot of fun with this.
I'll give you some crawfish etouffee and $1 million per victory.
Just go rehire Coach O. Let's get bring him back home.
But I still think Lane goes there. And you're gonna be mad, and maybe it's great. Maybe you love it. You like that, as Kirk Cousins said.
Mm-hmm.
But I got Eli Drinkwitz going to Florida. Okay,
you talk about something that would send me over the edge.
That Florida fan, the comments. I mean, I haven't. Let me look here. I mean, how many comments are on this thing? There's a lot of people get mad about these things, as you may expect. You start talking about matchmaking their teams with certain coaches.
Yep.
Florida fans, I will tell you, in the comments here, we're not exactly. Yeah, I got 412 comments right now on this. Some of them from Florida fans who very much do not
They don't want
this
Eli
at all.
Okay.
They don't want Eli.
I think if you mentioned with the Florida job right now, anybody other than Lane Kiffin,
Yep.
John Gruden, or Urban Meyer coming out of retirement, I think they get really mad about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And Gruden is, he's a possibility here with some of these. No, I think the big thing is they're all in on Lane, right? Like the realistic fans, they're all in on Lane. And I got them losing to LSU. And I think Eli Drinkwitz would be a good hire. I understand not liking him personally. I understand your feelings on him. I think his face is quite punchable.
Most people
okay?
do, yes.
But I think he's good. And so I went there. I don't have to go through all these, but a few interesting ones. Auburn. The Auburn fans listening, if you like this one. Alex Golesh. I think that offense, which has worked well in this league, I mean, it's working awfully well at Ole Miss. It's working pretty darn well at Tennessee, especially this year, now that it's back to looking like the offense. I think you distinguish yourself a little bit from Alabama. You bring in here's the thing with Golesh, and I think with a lot of the coaches that I think are going to be successful in this era. I think Clark Lee has demonstrated this. And I think Golesh has too at a lower level. You have so many people coming in from all over the place. I think the culture, inspiring big picture CEO coach that can bring people together is just more important than scheming and all that stuff. And about Golesh is a good schemer, he's got a good offense, but Golesh is really good at that stuff. And I think you've seen it at South Florida, although they lost a game they shouldn't have lost to Memphis. But I think Auburn, and I think if Auburn came after him, I know he likes USF and all that, but it'd be hard to turn that down. It'd be hard to turn that down. A little outside the box. Michigan State, I went with Pat Fitzgerald. Now, Pat Fitzgerald has been out of the game, the hazing scandal, and all that. I've never thought that would keep him out completely. He got personally exonerated. I mean, they did stuff that shouldn't have happened on his watch. But I never thought that was a career ender. It's not Art Briles. It's not some of these other things. And I think at some point, he's only 50. He did pretty good things at Northwestern where it's hard to recruit. I think he's that kind of guy too. I think he's that kind of coach that is, I'm not saying you have to have be a Newt Rockne guy, but he's that kind of coach. So I think that would be good for them. Ryan Silverfield from Memphis to Arkansas, not Gruden. I don't have Gruden going anywhere. I'm sorry. Now, Missouri fans already hate me because I ranked their job so low in the SEC, and then I gave them Mike Norvell, so they really hate me. Is Mike Norvell coming the way down from Florida State exciting for a Missouri fan?
Probably not. But, I mean, he did for a while win at Florida State and then quickly went the other way. Very quickly went the other way.
Well, it's like incredibly good or incredibly bad.
Yeah.
He's 44. He did really good things at Memphis. I mean, he was 23-4 in 22 and 23 at Florida State. That includes losing his quarterback.
Yeah.
It would have been better than that. But, I mean, this year, then we thought it was the big comeback. Again, maybe they won't fire him. So, I mean, this is fantasy football that we're playing here. But if he does get fired, it'll be really interesting to me to see if he's attractive. Kentucky. This is a guy who I think a lot of these jobs are going to look at. And I don't know that Kentucky can get him, but he did play at Kentucky. That's John Summerall at Tulane. He's done tremendous work at Tulane. Troy before that. He's really good. He's probably as coveted, I would guess, a group of 5 coaches there is. I mean, I think Golesh is moving up the list there too.
I might hold out for a better job.
That's and he may. I mean, look, there's people at LSU saying if you don't get Lane, you got to go get John Summerall. So now, I don't know if that'll happen, but he may get a better job. The question there is, will the heartstrings work on John Summerall at Kentucky?
Can we get to the chaos part of what you've done here, which is I'm just seeing it, and it's awesome. I mean, you had Lane going to LSU, which obviously if that happened would create a job opening at Ole Miss, and you got Dan Mullen coming back in the SEC, former Bulldog coach, former Florida coach, and taking the job at Ole Miss. That would be pretty sick. He's going to get another big job at some point. I'm interested to see where it is. But, like, if Lane left and Ole Miss wouldn't hire Dan Mullen, first off, Mississippi State fans would lose their mind. Secondly, that'd be really interesting to see the job he did there.
I forgot about those angry comments. Yeah. I mean, I had to do it, man. You know,
I'm glad you did.
1 year at UNLV, and there's been some talk about, I'm just got here. But if he can get back in the SEC,
I think he'd probably do it.
And look, he's been at Mississippi State. I'm sorry, but like the other side of the Egg Bowl is they got things a little bit better over there, you know. And I'm sorry, Nick Fraser. I'm sorry.
I turned my head in just disgust.
He did.
Don't you dare ever put that
Fraser's very
evil
upset.
on me.
Do you like Dan Mullen? Like, do you
I
miss
love
him?
Yeah. I miss him. I wish he'd come back to Starkville. I mean, he turned that program around.
Yeah,
he did a great job in Mississippi.
I was at the
job.
game where they went number 1 overall in the nation against Auburn. Coffee mug got thrown.
I mean, I know that,
great.
you know, obviously he clearly wears on people. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I mean, the win-loss record at Florida, pretty good. Like, I think Florida fans are looking at it right now, and they're like, well, you know, wasn't that bad with Dan Mullen.
Well, in retrospect, they didn't give him everything he needed. Now, the recruiting aspect of it, that was the big knock on him, right?
Yep.
It's like, what are you doing? But, yeah, no, he's good. He's a good coach. I think he's going to end up somewhere pretty soon.
As long as he's not on TV. Didn't go well on TV.
Yeah, not great.
No.
But it wasn't great on TV.
No. Some people are just meant to be ball coaches, man.
That's right. Like him and Lou Holtz.
That's right. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on the college football front. There's a massive one coming up on Saturday between Tennessee and Oklahoma. We'll get into that. Best and worst things in sports later this hour. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Chase and Big Joe will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circa Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall this Monday prior to the Monday Night Football game. Monday night matchups, the Cardinals taking on the Cowboys. Get excited for some Monday Night Football. Check it out with Chase and Big Joe. Robby Rexrode here on 102.5 The Game. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up here in just a few minutes and taking your thoughts on that as well. 615-737-1025. A massive game coming up at Neyland Stadium this weekend. The 6-2 Tennessee Volunteers taking on a 2-loss Oklahoma team as well in what is essentially a playoff game. Now, I guess, Joe, based on the way that their schedule ends here, that there's a chance if Oklahoma loses that they could still get in at 9-3. There is a chance because their schedule is a gauntlet down the stretch. They go at Tennessee this weekend. I think their next game is at Alabama. They got Missouri in there. They got LSU in there. You know, they've already played Texas. Like, there's, you know, it's been a challenging schedule for Oklahoma. So there's an outside chance, I think, if they go 9-3, they could get in to the college football playoff. Tennessee ain't getting in at 9-3. It just ain't happening based on, I mean, they just don't have enough quality wins at that point. Even if they were to beat Vanderbilt, Tennessee's not getting in at 9-3. So Tennessee's going to have to win out to get into the college football playoff. And this is one of their biggest tests coming up this weekend at home against Oklahoma. John Mateer, prior to his thumb injury, was really good and was probably, you know, included with anybody you want to talk about when it came to the Heisman Trophy race. It has not gone as well for Oklahoma's offense and specifically Oklahoma's passing attack since the injury. Now, some of that may be the injury. Some of that is they've played some better defenses along the way here. So we'll see what that looks like on Saturday. Tennessee, not a very good defense. Oklahoma's defense by the numbers has been good. I was watching Josh Pate on this last night, and he was talking about how Oklahoma's defensive numbers have been good. They hadn't played very good offenses yet, specifically very good passing attacks, and they just played one in Ole Miss, and Ole Miss threw for 315 on them. So Tennessee's got a better passing offense statistically than Ole Miss does. What's that going to look like in this game? So it's setting up, Joe, for what could be a very high-scoring affair coming up at Neyland Stadium on Saturday night.
Yeah. You know, like I think back to the Oklahoma game, like against Michigan, for example. You know, a good win for them. I mean, decent win for them, but like that's a team that struggles to throw the football. You know, I think some of their numbers have been built a little bit on teams that do, and obviously Tennessee does not. I think Tennessee. Look, I think Tennessee's offense, frankly. I like the matchup and just about. I'm trying to think of a defense. I guess if you play the Ohio State and the way that defense looks, you know, that maybe they'd lock down the Vols. But like I have total confidence that Tennessee's offense can move the ball and score points in just about any matchup. You know, sneak in some stops. And the thing is, like you said, I mean, Mateer just hasn't quite been the same. I don't know how much that's related to the injury, but
he says it's not.
It hasn't.
He says his thumb's feeling fine.
Yeah, it just hasn't looked as good, you know? And maybe that's just a little bit of reality setting in. I don't know. It's not like everybody who comes from Washington State is automatically going to be, you know, a superstar quarterback. But he's good. Yeah. And he runs around. And, based on Tennessee's defense, I think they'll score points too. But I like Tennessee's defenses at home. Defense's chance of getting, you know, sneaking some stops in there a little bit more than Oklahoma's. Not that Oklahoma, you know, I mean, Oklahoma will get some stops too. They got a lot of talent on defense. But, again, I got confidence in Tennessee's offense just about any time out right now, especially in that stadium.
To me, the deep ball for Tennessee, like Joey Aguilar is completing the deep ball at a pretty high rate. And that's been a lot of conversation this week around there is like if you go and look at the numbers, the lowest percentage throws are typically like those deep shots down the field that are like right on the sideline, and he's completing those almost with regularity, like on a game-by-game basis, whether it's Brazel, you know, Staley's largely been more over the middle, but, you know, they've had some deep shots there as well. And then, you know, he threw one, I mean, you tell me, he launched it probably 55 yards in the air last week. Couldn't have run up and handed it to Mike Matthews any better than he did.
Incredible throw.
The deep balls have been very good for Joey Aguilar. If you look at the receiving numbers, their three guys are all in the top 10 in SEC receiving yards right now. Staley, Matthews, and Brazel kind of leading the way there. So the receiving core, after all the questions that we had coming into the year about it, they're good. Like, they're really good. Those three are. I mentioned, like, Matthews to me kind of felt like he took a step in the Kentucky game where he just went up and just wrestled it away from guys a couple of times. And he looked kind of like the 5-star guard guy that I think they need him to look like. Can he do that against Oklahoma? Like, he had a big game against Kentucky. He had a big game against Mississippi State where he had 6 for 118. In the Georgia game, he struggled a little bit. He had a huge drop in that game. He had a drop in the Alabama game. So in one of these bigger matchups, like we're going to see on Saturday night, can he come through and against one of those type of teams? Now, I'm not saying Georgia or Oklahoma is Georgia or Alabama, but this is a huge game, and they need him to come through in a huge game.
Huge game, no doubt. And the thing is, it's like you got to remember sometimes, second year in college. I mean, this is, the timelines get so mangled sometimes, and obviously, it was kind of disappointing last year, but also we know how things go with Josh Heupel's offense. I think he's on track, and I think he's surging right now, and it's amazing to think about Aguilar and those receivers, which was the number one thing we wondered about this team. And then there's other things that we thought would be good that weren't as good, but it's a heck of a crew. I mean,
Aguilar and the receivers are by far the best part of the team.
Yeah,
by far.
And it's like, I'm not saying, if you compare it to like Hooker and what he had 3 years ago, I mean, like, it's not, Hooker was having an insane season, and he was just, but I mean, it's not that far off. It really isn't.
No, it's not. I mean, from a yardage standpoint, from a points per game standpoint, it's really not that far off. Now, Brazel's having a great year. All three of those guys are having good years. I mean, none of those guys are having Jalen Hyatt, Bolitnikoff type years.
Right.
And when that team had touchdowns against Alabama.
Yeah, no. Right. There's no Hyatt. And when Tillman was healthy, that was really absurd. So it's not quite that. But, yeah, I mean, you can see it with Matthews. He's
good.
He's a pro.
Yeah. Well, and can your defense find a way to come up with a few big-time stops in this game? Like, this is the type of game, Joe, that Tennessee has won a lot over the last couple of years. Like, they just don't lose at home very much. Like, they've lost at home in the SEC basically to Georgia. Like, that's how it's gone. Yeah, so can you, in what's going to be your Saturday night game that all Tennessee fans have been clamoring for all year, they've been really mad that they've not gotten any Saturday night home games yet. Well, you got one. You got the dark mode jerseys. I know you hate them. People seem to love them. Players seem to love them, and they won in them. So what does that look like on Saturday night? I mean, we know like the environment's going to be off the chain on Saturday. So can Oklahoma handle that?
Yeah. I am shocked if anyone but Georgia goes in there and beats them. And so I expect them to win this game. If they lose this game, the dark mode jerseys hopefully get burned. And we never see them again. I mean, at least that would be the one real upside there.
Such a hater.
Well, it's just, they have great uniforms. If you have great uniforms, don't mess with your great uniforms.
I will say, like, I love the kind of the classic look for Oklahoma. And, they're going to be wearing the all white uniforms with they basically have two uniforms. So they're wearing their road uniform this weekend. The all white and the crimson that they've got, and then Tennessee's orange and white would look really good.
Would be awesome. And I assume that was what it was, right? 10 years ago when Baker came in, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. But, oh well, dark mode. But, I mean, that's what they wore that goofy Kentucky game where Will Levis kept throwing interceptions.
Yeah, that one was over by about the second possession, I think.
Remember, like, Levis they had one TD drive early. It was like, ooh, okay, maybe they're in this. And then it was, no. I don't think this is going to be that. But, man, it's a lot. In that stadium at night with that offense the way it's playing, that's tough, man. Tough assignment for the Sooners.
Well, the best and worst things in sports coming up next. Take your best things, your worst thing at 615-737-1025 on our text line. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. Don't even miracles yet. Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
It is that time of the week. The best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
It's got a Snickers bar to settle my stomach. Was that smart or dumb?
I guess we'll find out.
You're not you and you don't have a Snickers.
What's that?
You're not you and you don't have a Snickers. He's right. You seen those commercials?
You're not you? That's the new slogan? You're not you.
You haven't seen those commercials where it was like, like Betty White back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
You would like go tackle Clay Matthews or something.
That's for some reason I thought the slogan was so Snickers really satisfies, even for those, but that makes sense now. Actually, I think it might be helping a little bit. My best in sports is, Vanderbilt football, where they are, yes, but especially Saturday, game day, all that stuff. I don't think it could have gone much better. Anybody who's a Vanderbilt fan who took part in that is gaga about it. Just the whole scene. And it's like the stadium looks cool and the team is really good. And it's just it's a lot of fun to see that. And for the people over there who, people over there a long time in athletics, I think, and Vanderbilt fans for sure, of course. But also like the people who've been toiling over there in athletics for a long time. And, they've had, you had Tim Corbett in baseball, through it all and things like that. But a lot of struggles to try to get just a fraction of what your competitors had for decades. And it's pretty cool to see those people be rewarded. So that's my best. My worst is just the utter misery of being in a professional sports city where not only do both teams stink, but they just can't score.
Yep.
They just have no offense. And it's just, and we've been talking about it, and it's very obvious and low-hanging fruit for me to use, but you guys let me go first, so, hey, it's on you. It really is depressing, and I just need one of them to stink in a different way at least. If you're not going to stop stinking, stink in a different way.
There we go. Nick Frazier, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Best thing would be Michael Jordan's sit down with Mike Tirico weekly. He mentioned load management. I think that's hilarious that he brought it up, saying, you know what, it's not
in my day,
it's not a real thing, which is great. I think that's a thing that needs to be brought back, is no load management. I mean, play for the sport. It's honestly, it's shaping the younger generation that's trying to fall in love with basketball again. So I think Michael Jordan's doing a service for basketball.
There we go.
The worst thing in sports, MTSU's game last night. Bless their hearts. Halftime, there was that interception that Vadiato threw.
That was amazing.
Whatever that jumble of play was, and they called it a touchdown at the end. That's my biggest issue with college referees. They're going to call anything a touchdown or it's inbounds or whatever. Be a true referee and call with your initial judgment. Like, don't go and default to the touchdown and then go to video review. That's stupid. Everything's been defaulted to video review. Go with your gut. Be an actual referee and go with your gut.
I'll counter you though, because if it was actually, like when you blow the whistle, you don't let a play go, then it can't be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why they're kind of taught to let a play go.
Well, I'm just saying,
yes,
though,
the fact that the touchdown was called was pretty funny, because there were like multiple forward throws.
Even the broadcast was like, "Of course it's a touchdown. It's a new play." USA.
Yeah.
Not going well for Derek Mason there in year 2, by the way.
Tough year.
Not going well. My best thing in sports, Jordan Love, baby. He was balling on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. 20 consecutive completions. He ends up 29 of 37, 360, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Really good in that game. Quarterback rating of 134.2. And for some reason, I guess there's people out there that still think that he's just like not good. Let me read you his numbers. 71% completion percentage. This is on the season. 71% completion percentage, 1,800 yards passing, 8-4 an attempt, 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. Guy's pretty good, man.
Who's saying he's not good?
I mean, they're some Bears fans trying to talk themselves into him not
well.
being good. Rex Ryan was on there a couple weeks ago on ESPN. And he was like, yeah, Packers are good, but I don't trust Jordan Love. The guy, he's just not going to come through in the big moments. It's like, well, based on what? The fact that they've not won a Super Bowl yet?
I guess until you've won it,
I guess so.
You can't come through.
So, the guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's very good.
So he is my best thing in sports this week. My worst thing in sports, the Nashville Predators, specifically in the second period. We got to figure out what's going on in the second period. 3 games in a row, they've gone through like a 15-minute stretch in the second period into the third where they just don't approach the offensive zone. Like it happened again against Tampa the other night. It happened last week against L.A. They ended up winning that game. But L.A., the Dallas game, like they just – I don't know if it's long change. I don't know what it is. But they went through – I guess Tuesday night against Tampa, they had 3 shots on goal in the period, and I think one of them was like a dump in. So it's like, good grief. We got to get something figured out. It's one thing to be bad offensively. I said this the other day. They're not good offensively. They're limited in what they do. But you make it a whole lot worse when you go through basically a third of the game and you can't even get in the zone. Like we got to just get something figured out on that front.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe they need to change it to just like have a halftime or something. I don't know.
So
it's like that's the period you hope to just kind of take off a little bit and then really ramp it up for the third.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Just saving your legs. One texter says 18 innings in a World Series game is both the best and the worst thing in sports.
Good call.
How about those Blue Jays? They're 1 win away.
How about them, man? Wow.
1 win away. Josh in Kentucky says, my worst thing has been the same all football season. Mark effing Stoops. This is from Josh in Kentucky. I think a lot of Kentucky fans are fed up with Mark Stoops.
I would ask you, though, Josh in Kentucky, can you appreciate what Mark Stoops has done for a program that, in my view, was not worth even mentioning for a long time before he got there?
I would say that the answer to that should be yes. And you could, I would say both.
Yeah.
You can appreciate what he's done and also recognize that it's probably time to move on at this point.
Yep.
Would be the way that I would view it on that front. By the way, people love dark mode jersey for Tennessee on this text line right now. They love the dark mode jersey.
Yeah, everybody's look at all these dark mode jerseys. Great.
Best top 5 alternate in college football.
Top 5? Someone voted that?
Somebody said.
Oh, whatever. They all suck. Great. You're in the top 5 of crap. I got a best for Taylor Wong. That's the kid, the Vanderbilt kid, $500K. Crushed it.
Oh, yeah.
Then they're, I don't know, they're mad. The worst is that we cut off Vandy postgame for the Preds. Well,
I don't know about that.
I don't know. And MLB, all with no warning. I don't know. I wish I wouldn't have read this now. Casey's going to get mad at me.
Now Tennessee fans are just all over Kentucky on the text line as well about how bad they are. So that's fun.
Joey from Gallatin, UK is still ass. Mark Stoops did a good job. Mark Stoops did a really good job. Oh, yeah. Josh says, yeah, thanks for the 2 or 3 good years, Mark. It was a little better than that, right? Kentucky football, man. Kentucky football was tough scene before he got there. Got a best Cedric Coward. Worst Tyler Shuck.
Tyler Shuck hadn't even played yet, has he? He's going to start.
He's about to. Now. He's about. Is it because the worst is that he's playing? Is that he's taking over for Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, I was really enjoying watching Spencer Rattler play football out there.
Yeah, boy, don't take him off the field. Ryan Kessler's a good worst. Good worst.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Worst in sports doesn't begin to say it.
That's a good one. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We will get into the Titans and the NFL trade deadline coming up next. Derek Mackenzie, Preds assistant coach, coming up at 7:30. Charles Robinson at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Frazier here with you on this Thursday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We've got Derek Mackenzie, Predators assistant coach, coming up at 7:30. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 for his weekly visit, and we will get into the Titans, all things NFL with him, so looking forward to that. Got the rant later this hour. I don't know if we've determined yet who's doing the rant. Could be me. Could be Joe.
Could be my stomach.
Could be. We'll find out. We made any progress on that front? We feeling better?
I think the Snickers was a good move. I think Frazier's idea for like a fizzy, like a 7-Up would be nice, but we don't have any.
7-Up. It's good stuff.
You know? But yeah.
Yellow.
What's that?
A mellow yellow?
I don't think Mellow Yellow. Does Mellow Yellow have fizz like that?
Probably not.
Yeah, then I just
I haven't had a mellow yellow in a long time, so I don't remember.
You just made me sick again.
Sorry.
Probably got more sugar than a sugared packet.
That's probably true.
Yeah, a little Mellow Yellow and Mountain Dew. Just
lean into it.
Just have a total sugar crash out.
Why not?
Sure. No, I think it's getting a little better. Thanks for asking.
Have you channeled your inner Betty White?
Yeah, see, he's feeling more like himself over there.
I mean, Snickers, gotta say, man, no free ads, but I'm just saying. It works.
The NFL trading deadline coming up on Tuesday, November the 4th. So we're 5 days away from the trading deadline in the NFL. We talked about this a little bit with Kuharski yesterday. Joe, I will say this. I think that and you can agree or disagree with this. I'm interested to see your take on it. I think I'm probably a little bit more open to trading Jeffrey Simmons still at this point than a lot of people are. And obviously, he has played really well when he's been in there this year. So I think obviously when you watch the way that he was playing and the level that he was at before the injury, you're like, well, that's a pretty darn good football player. And the Titans don't have a whole lot of those. So why would you get rid of him? So trust me, I understand that line of thinking. And I'm not saying I would absolutely trade Jeffrey Simmons no matter what. I just think that I'm probably a little bit more open to it than the Titans and some of their fans now seem to be. The conversation when this all started heading into the year was, I doubt very seriously by the time the deadline comes around, anybody's going to offer a first-round pick for Jeffrey Simmons, right? Like we talked about that. Like, could you get a second for him? And then you watched him play, and as time went on, it's like, well, he looks pretty good. Maybe you could get a first-round pick for him. And now, Kuharski yesterday was like a first and what? And it's like, well, the conversation has changed. And to his credit, he's played so well that I think he's forced it to change. I guess my willingness to remain open to that conversation of listening, if I'm the Titans, would be this. He's 28 years old. He's playing at a high level right now. And in the NFL, if you do your job right, he can still be a really, really good player for you by the time the stadium opens here in a couple years when hopefully you've turned the roster enough and you're a better team. So absolutely, he can still be a part of the next good era of Titans football. Is he going to be what he's been this year for the next 2-3 years? Is that what he is now? Or is this a special set of circumstances where he's lost the weight? He obviously clearly wants a new contract coming up. And the other part of this is he's injured again as we sit here. And injuries have been creeping into his game over the last few years. They've not been like crazy bad. He had the ankle a few years ago that clearly bothered him. And I think it took him a while to get over that. But other than that, it's not like he's had some catastrophic injury out there. But he is, he's missed a hamstring, missed last week, basically missed all the Patriots game. We'll see what it looks like this week. Do we feel like the injury part of this is just going to get better as he gets into being 29, 30, 31 years old? Again, I'm not saying I would trade him. I'm not saying that I'm, getting rid of him no matter what. I'm just saying I think I'd be a little bit more open to the conversation if I'm the Titans than some people seem to be at this point.
Yeah. It's all good points, good questions. The injury thing, the fact that he's playing tremendously well this year. This hasn't been him recent years. And I think the obvious reason is like losing the weight, right? But I mean, it's not like he's been this year after year after year.
Correct.
So, you get into, is he just trying to get himself out of here? I mean, I think he just found like he can be more effective at that weight. But the injury thing is a legit concern. Now, I do think back to like when AJ Brown was traded, or when there was talk of him and there was the injury stuff with him, goofballs like Stilly. Oh, I get it. Yeah, that trade makes sense. Yeah, good trade. Great job. I'm totally on board with this one.
Worked out well.
That was a lot of the talk was, well, he's had a little knee thing and he's had this, and we see how that works. And now that's a much younger player at that point than Jeff Simmons is now. I would not be closed off. We have been talking this week about, do you want any football players?
Yeah,
actual football players who can play football moving forward in your team, and he's a good one to have. But also, look, if you're going to tear it down to the studs, and you can really do something in the draft, you have to draft extremely well. But like, I'm looking again, I hate to keep using this team as a model because I've spent most of my life hating them. But here's another deal for Hutchinson and the Lions. Look at just their drafts and the insane. They're all going to get second deals because they drafted that well. If you can do that, you can have yourself a good football team in pretty short order.
Well, and it's, again, I'm not listening to just anything on Jeffrey Simmons, but I think the Bills are a perfect example. They just lost Ed Oliver with torn biceps. Like, if Buffalo comes calling and offers you a first-round pick, are you telling me you wouldn't at least consider that? Like, I understand it's Buffalo and that the first-round pick at that point is going to be real low,
25th,
like 20,
27th,
maybe 28th, 29th, 30th, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. But it is another first-round pick, and it is a chance for you to draft a key player there. Like, I understand it's the bottom of the first round, but that should be a key starting level player. Now, yes, will it be hard to draft somebody in that spot that's as good as Jeffrey Simmons? Yeah, it's going to be hard to draft somebody anywhere that's as good as Jeffrey Simmons. But it's also kind of part of your job as you're the general manager. Again,
but
I'm just saying that the idea that you just don't consider it all at all, I can't get there with Jeffrey Simmons based on where they're at as a team.
I totally agree. And of course, you cannot guarantee you're going to get someone as good as him. But again, at the age he is, at the price he is, those things have to be considered as well. Ricky says a first and a second, maybe two firsts, or I'm laughing, maybe a first and a second. I mean,
they're not getting two firsts.
If you get two firsts, then you'd be absolutely silly not to do it.
Yeah,
I don't see that happening. A first and I don't know, a third or something. To me, if that's the case, I'd have a hard time walking away from that.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I don't think they're going to get that. Like, I understand that he's played really well. I don't know how we've gone from everybody thinking that, there's probably no way they're getting a first round pick to, well, now they're going to get a first and a third with Jeffrey Simmons in like the span of 6 weeks. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you got a team that's just definitely, but that is what it takes, is something like that with Buffalo. And he is Oliver's really good. That's a big loss.
Yeah, and they're a team that obviously is, it doesn't have to be them, but they're a team that is right in the thick of the Super Bowl race. It feels like the Titans are totally closed off to it. And if that's the way they want to do it, then, I guess I have no problem with them just absolutely keeping a good football player because they don't really have any of those. I'm just saying, like, if somebody calls me with a first-round pick offer for Jeffrey Simmons, I'm at least talking about it. I'm not just being like, well, nope, hang up the phone.
Yeah, I have a problem. Yeah, if they're really just, that's it. Sorry, nope, I have a problem with that. I think that's silly.
Let's head back to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kyle to the program. Kyle, good morning. Thank you for calling in. Hello, Kyle. Are you there? I think we may have lost Kyle for a second. We'll check back in.
Call back, Kyle.
Here's what we'll do. We'll take your thoughts on this. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll come back, pick up the Jeffrey Simmons conversation. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 the game.
Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best players in our league. He's one of the best defensive players, in our league, and we'll have our hands full. And that's the NFL. You're going to play against guys like that every week, and that's who we have week one. And excited to always compete against the best. And he's one that I definitely think is one of the best in our league, and will be for a long time.
That's Derek Carr a couple years ago. Loves him some Jeffrey Simmons. Taking your thoughts on Simmons, the NFL trading deadline, and the Tennessee Titans. 615-737-1025. Let's welcome Kyle into the program on the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Kyle, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
All right. Well, I've been pretty stern on not trading Simmons, but for some reason, Robbie, you got me this morning. You got me wanting to trade him. I don't know why. But the Ravens play tonight, and if they win, I believe they can go on a strong playoff push, and I could see them trading for Jeff Simmons since Matabike is down. And they should get a late team pick or in the early 20s, seeing how it was last week. They were drafting slotted at like the 3rd overall pick. So, yeah, I've been strong on not trading Simmons, but that could be our new starting defensive end or a star wide receiver for Cam. So that's where I'm at right now with it.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Kyle. Appreciate it. I mean, I guess to his point, again, I am not just going to trade Jeffrey Simmons for the sake of trading Jeffrey Simmons. I'm just saying if the compensation gets into first-round territory, I think you've at least got to talk about it because, yes, it will be hard to replace Jeffrey Simmons. And if you're taking him off this football team that, by the way, is already atrocious with him, if you're taking him off of it, it just makes things that much harder. But I'm also looking around the rest of the roster, and it's like, well, you need at least one edge rusher, probably two. You need a wide receiver. At the moment, you need 3 corners. Like, there's a lot of things this team needs, and this is a trade chip that you could have that is by far your best trade chip right now that could go a long way to getting some of those younger pieces in here that eventually this roster is going to have. Like that next wave of foundational players you're going to have alongside your quarterback. So that, again, is why I would give consideration to it if somebody's calling in with a first-round pick. Like, I think you'd have to talk about that.
Yeah, I think people look at it. If you look at it one for one, like, okay, where are you going to find a better guy at that position? You think you're going to? I get that. Like right now, you can make the case that he's as good as any D tackle in it. And I think you go back to 2021, and it was like, I remember when they crushed the Rams on the road. It was like, well, Jeffrey Simmons was the best. I mean, he's not better than Aaron Donald, but it might be Aaron Donald then Jeffrey Simmons, and then Chris Jones in there wherever. Like, yeah, at different times it's been like that. Now, in other years, it has not been that. Like last couple of years, he has not. Yeah, he has not been mentioned, and he shouldn't have been among the very, very best. But if looking at it like that, to me, is the wrong way to look at it. It's look at how deficient you are at all these other places. Maybe you just have you've got Sweat, and maybe he keeps getting better, and you have some solid players there, but you have a monster edge, and you have a star receiver, and you have all these, because of this, you can get things. Again, you have to make great choices. I mean, that's still the thing. Can you make the right choices? But you have the ability to go out and address so many other things if you load up on the draft capital. And if it's first round picks, again, if you get one, you can trade out of that, and you have another one, all of a sudden you can be heavy in the second, heavy in the third. That's how you build the roster. So many of these teams, you can get a handful of starters in a year. Yeah. And if they're good and you make good choices, you flip a roster, you transform a team. So I understand if you're thinking about it like, well, yeah, what D tackle out there is going to be better than this dude? Probably not. Probably not going to have that, but you might have a bunch of other things you don't have. Yeah. And this is part of that.
Well, I just keep coming back to how are you reconstructing this roster in one off season to the point where you can help your quarterback as much as possible, right? Like, to me, this would go, I understand you, on the one hand, it's like, well, you're not helping him at all when you're taking Jeffrey Simmons away from him on an already bad defense. And I get that. But it's also like, what if you do find a pretty good edge rusher with the first round pick that you get for Jeffrey Simmons? Like, what would you rather have? Dominant defensive tackle or pretty darn good edge rusher? Like, I don't know. You ask people around the league, they'd probably take the edge rusher. in that situation. It's not, I mean, you'd have to tell me exactly who the player is and what they grow into and all those things.
I have a really good edge rusher, but also like a 3rd or 4th round corner who's a starter.
Yeah.
That's both things. And
Exactly.
that's the thing.
I'm just saying, like, all I'm saying is I think it would be a mistake for the Titans to just be totally closed off to this heading into the next 5 days. If a deal doesn't materialize to your satisfaction, then fine, you get to keep Jeffrey Simmons, and he's a great football player for you, and you're probably going to have to rework his deal at the end of the year, and he's going to get more guaranteed money and all those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's the way it goes for the Titans, then good. You've got a really good football player with you for the foreseeable future. I just think, like, the idea that some Titans fans that we've heard from that say, oh, there's no way in the world I'd trade Jeffrey Simmons. Like, there's nobody on the roster that I would view that. I mean, nobody's going to be calling about Cam Ward right now. So, and he's not even in this conversation to me, but there's nobody that the Titans have right now where I'd be like, well, there's no freaking way you could ever even entertain the idea of trading that guy, and including Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, for sure. So I hope that, again, just because you put it out there, not doing it, I think that's happened before where teams have put out that sort of messaging and then all of a sudden it's, I mean, look, John Robinson all but said that, right?
Yep.
I mean, and then, the A.J. Brown things, and that's a different situation. That was the negotiation here that caused that. But point being, it's fine to put it out there. I really hope that they aren't just like, nope,
Yep.
sorry. Just, I'm just going to ignore that text. No, I mean, just see what they have to say, because you might just have someone who's like, you know what, that guy is the final piece. Or like you said, with Buffalo, it's like, without Ed Oliver, this defense, there's no way we're winning the AFC East. Like, you got to have a guy in there. So how desperate are you?
And the other part of this, and I have no idea how he feels about this. Jeffrey Simmons, by all accounts, seems to have really enjoyed being a Tennessee Titan, and he said all the right things about that. Like, does it reach a point with him? Has it reached a point with him over the last couple of weeks where he looks at it and he's like, man, get me out of here? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he has said that, but if it came out that Jeffrey Simmons approached the Titans about wanting a trade, would you blame him at this point?
No.
I sure wouldn't.
No. There's plenty of people who you can come back here and hang out, live, whatever. You just don't have to play for the team. No, I'm sure if you're Jeff Simmons and you get traded to a legit contender, you'd be pretty excited about it. And no one should blame him for that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get Charles Robinson's thoughts on all this a little bit later in the show. Preds assistant coach Derek Mackenzie will be with us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Fraser here with you on this Thursday morning. The Preds back in action tonight on the road, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Puck drop at 6 o'clock, pregame 5 o'clock here on 102.5 The Game. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators assistant coach Derek Mackenzie. Derek, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Derek, we're 11 games in at this point. You've got some good and some bad throughout the whole process. Still very early in the year as you're trying to build your game. What have you liked about your group to this point, and what do you think that next step is for your group?
Well, I mean, I think obviously early on we've been pretty resilient as far as, I guess you just kind of referred to it. Not every game has gone perfectly for us, but, guys have showed back up and, played some pretty good hockey for the most part. I think, consistency is something that, we're looking for, especially in a 60-minute game. I think last game was a pretty good example of it, even the game against LA where, we had some really good sections, really good, 40 minutes or even more, but can't seem to, find ways to finish them off. And we've talked a lot about that, having to be comfortable in these low scoring games. There's going to be a lot of them. We just got to find a way to come out on the other side of them.
Is that sort of going into the season, Derek? You guys expect that it was going to be that way, that essentially this was going to have to be more of a, I guess, defensive team and win games that way?
Yeah, it was definitely an emphasis through training camp, making a few little tweaks and spending some extra time in D zone and making sure that, everybody's comfortable defending. And, we knew that was something that, we may have to spend a little bit more time in our zone. That's just where the league's at. There's obviously some teams with a lot of speed and a lot of skill. And so we wanted to be prepared for that. And I thought for the most part, we've done a really good job, over the course of these first 11 games as far as, frustrating and suppressing most of these teams' offense. Again, just getting away from us a little bit against Tampa Bay. And obviously the result wasn't in our favor.
So, Derek, obviously, defensively, I think there's clearly been some improvement there. I was talking to Bunting after the game the other night, and he says the offense, has got to pick it up, obviously, at this point. I think 8 of the 11 games you've had 2 goals or fewer. So, in the offensive zone, what are you seeing, and what do you think is the step that needs to be taken there to maybe lead to a little bit more production on a consistent basis offensively?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. Obviously, I think, with our DNA, our forecheck has been really good for us early on and has been over the course of the last few years. And then I think we're spending enough time in the O-zone. I think really the message has been, again, getting back to, not pressing for that. I think obviously guys, want to score. We want to win those games, and sometimes you want to win them big, but, we can't compromise on all that and get loose at the other end. So for me, I think it's just a matter of time, before obviously our offense picks up. But again, we don't want to change a whole lot. I think we've, defended really well, and we've taken care of our rush game, and we've done some things to be a little bit more conservative in the middle of the ice, so that, we're not just feeding into other teams' offense. And I think if we continue to do those things, we just have to have some poise and some patience in these games. And, obviously our goaltending has been really strong for us. So those are all positive signs. 1 or 2 bounces the other way, and you start winning these games 4-2.
Luke Evangelista gets on the board. Obviously, he missed a lot of time with the contract thing going on. What do you need from him, expect from him this year, Derek? And do you think there's still some runway here because of that missed time until he gets, I guess, to the place where you guys want him to be?
Yeah, I mean, for any player to have to miss training camp the way Luke did, it's a very difficult situation. It doesn't seem like much, but, just not starting camp with everybody else going through those reps, getting into some exhibition games is difficult. I thought he did a really good job stepping in under the circumstances that he did. And then, for him now, it's a tough kind of uphill battle in the sense that, like, we have a lot of games that happens really quick. And so, you got to kind of get up to speed as quickly as you can. And, I think last game was a really good step in the right direction for Luke, obviously, now becoming a little more established in the league and that should feel a little bit more comfortable with his contract. For him, he's just going to be a guy for us that night in and night out has to be consistent. And again, it's not, we don't need him to light up, the scoreboard. Obviously that's what comes naturally to him, but, just work on his, being a well-rounded, winger for us and a veteran player and a guy that we can rely on.
So, Derek, the penalty kill has been outstanding to begin the year for you guys. And on the one hand, that's good. You have a really good penalty kill. On the other hand, I know that, Bruno was talking about this after the game the other night. Feels like you guys are taking way too many penalties, way too many stick infractions, things like that. So what do you make of the success of the penalty kill to this point? What's led to that in your mind? And how much of an emphasis is maybe cleaning up some of those stick infractions moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll let those PK guys kind of speak for themselves on that one. I think obviously just a bunch of humble guys working together, and it's working, and I think we'll just kind of leave it at that. But as far as addressing the stick penalties and being in the box a little too much, I think the biggest concern there is just that the way they've been killing, it's very aggressive, and we're asking a lot of them. And so if we're doing that too many times in a game over the course of 10 games, and the concern is just how long can you keep that up? And so it takes away ice time obviously from the guys who aren't killing, and it really kind of taxes the guys that are killing, including our goalie. So we definitely got to find ways to check with our feet and avoid some of these stick penalties. I mean, it's going to happen in a game when we're forechecking hard and playing physical and doing all the right things. We expect there to be a little bit of it, but we obviously have to kind of eliminate a few of those stick penalties where they're in the neutral zone and the offensive zone and can be avoided.
What are you seeing right now from Marchessault?
He's been good. I think he's come into camp. I know he's a competitive guy, plays with a lot of pride. I think he felt like he wanted to have a better start than maybe he did last year. Obviously, he had a lot going on, so it's all completely understandable. But no, I thought he's moving well. He's again down in the offensive zone. He's a guy that once he gets that puck, it's really hard to get it off him, and he's he can make plays, and that's where he feels most comfortable. But I think his all-around game's been really good, and like I said, I'm sure he'd love to be scoring at a little bit of a higher rate, but that's just kind of where we're at, and then how we're asking some of those guys to play, and it's nice to see the buy-in.
Well, Derek, always good with your time. I know you guys have a ridiculously busy schedule, especially this year with how condensed it is. Appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning, and we will talk to you soon.
No problem, guys. Always enjoy coming on, so appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Yep, Preds assistant coach Derek Mackenzie, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Again, the Preds are in action tonight, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers on the road. And then, Joe, they are back at home Saturday, back at home or back on the road Tuesday, back at home next Thursday, back at home next Saturday before heading off to Sweden. A lot of games and not very much time this year.
Yeah.
Got the Sweden trip, which is its own thing. So you got to block out some time for that. And when they come back, I think they get like 5 days off or 6 days off. And then there's the Olympics in February where you're off as a league for basically 3 weeks. So going to be a lot of hockey in a very quick amount of time. I mean, they're already on game 12 and it's October the 30th.
Yeah. Highly disrupted year. So highly condensed in the times that aren't disrupted. Is that good or bad for the Preds?
I don't know. I mean,
I guess maybe older teams, maybe not as good.
Not as good.
Probably.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, it's a concern. I know that it also is going to require, as the year goes on, your backup goalie to play well and to get you some wins because they're going to have to use him. Like you can't just run Saros into the ground. And, on and in. I'm not saying it's been awful so far, but they have. I think the first game he was in, they gave up 7. There may have been an empty net or 2 in there too, and then gave up 4, I believe, against. Was it 3 or 4 against the Stars when he was in last week? I can't remember. Either way, they need him to be better as they move forward. It was 3 against the Stars. So.
Yeah, because you got to be able to give you guys some rest and feel okay about it. Have a chance.
Yep. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Charles Robinson will be with us at 8 o'clock. All of that is ahead here on the program. Check out Saturday's college football game of the week. It's number 5 Georgia taking on Florida at 2:30 on 94.9 The Fan. Following the Vanderbilt game, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circa Sportsbook Kentucky. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Oh, I need sources to tell that?
We had a love fest. We all kind of gathered around. We hugged each other.
Born and raised downriver.
Whose head, whose ass are you? Is your head up then?
Can't you see this, Joe? It's inconsistent. You better not have another biscuit. Look at this jerk. Ooga, ooga.
But sometimes I definitely notice my nipples.
It is time for the Rex Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Rise up to better health. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. Fraser doing an outstanding job on the mashup this morning.
Well done, well done. And I like a jerk that I am. The last minute was like, oh, can you get this audio clip ready?
By the way, we're doing a segment on this in a minute and a half. Can you get this ready?
Get that ready real fast. Of course, he's like, I already got it, man.
Yeah,
I already got it for you. So I do want to play this because this is, it's everywhere as if it's new. But just in case people don't know, like this is from, I think, preseason, right? This is preseason. So this is Carly Ursay Gordon. There are 3 daughters of the late Jim Ursay who are basically running, but Carly has taken the lead.
She's got the headset on.
We've had some fun with the whole headset thing, but let's revisit what she said about that, which now this week, especially, I don't know why, but this week it's just like this is a brand new thing that she just said.
I need to learn more about this. I need to be able to say, is this person full of BS? Do they even know what they're talking about? And I think one of the things that being on the headset has really helped me learn is, to the question earlier, it's such a complex organism of football team and how it operates. And on game day, and you could say, oh, that person ran that route wrong. When you learn to find, oh, someone tagged the wrong wide receiver, and it wasn't really the player's fault. It was the person that called it. So, and it's never, I think that's been a very valuable, because it also helps us be able to know, where do we need to make tweaks? What resources do we need? What do we need to fix? So much of it comes down to just how we operate and how things work. And the headsets are really, I wish more, I would suggest it for anyone else that has to pay coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake potentially.
What do you mean?
Where's Amy Adams Strunk right now?
Yeah, she's at her home.
Oh, a little tack on there. Little tack on. Okay.
That was perfect.
So the point, first of all, let's dismiss this out of hand before we get into the discussion that I want to have, which is like it's like with Amy and some of the with Carly too. There's some people are just like, oh, little lady getting in football. Oh, you get yourself back. You get that crap. I mean, there's no difference between some heir and heiress. Like some dude is like, oh, I played flag football when I was 9, and oh, you know football then. You're a dude.
Get Woody Johnson out there. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's that part of it is stupid. We can dismiss that. But I find this hilarious because the Colts are good.
Yeah.
And this is such a beautiful thing about sports. The Colts are winning. They're scoring at an incredible clip. They're one of the stories of the NFL. Good for them. But now everybody's like, this is fantastic. This is how you lead an organization. Look at everybody. Whereas in the preseason, when this thing happened, it was like, oh, my God, how stupid is this? Oh, yeah, go out there with your headset on. It's just a great example. If you're winning, whatever your personality is awesome. You know, you're a yeller and screamer. That is a winning personality. You are tough. You hold people to a high standard. You're losing, you're yelling and screaming. Oh my God, you unhinged loser, Brian Kelly, get out of here. You know, it's a beautiful thing about sports. I will say though, like, I guess maybe I'm just being influenced by the Colts winning. Like if I was one of these goofball heirs, I think I might put the headset on.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, look, I will give her credit. And I think we talked about this at the time when she made these comments. Like the reasoning behind it makes sense. Like, you know, it's not like she's getting on there Like, hey guys, you sure you want to go that play call on 4th down? Like, it's not like she's offering opinions on there. She's just listening to what's going on. And like, I don't hate the idea if you're an owner and you're trying to figure out how your operation is going, like just listening in on this stuff all the time. I don't think this is going to turn into some trend around the league. I don't think Amy's going to be in the owner's booth on Sunday being like, wow, they just called a bubble screen on 3rd down. Can you believe it? Coach, don't do that, Mike. Don't do that. I don't think that's going to happen. But like it is the way she explained it at the end of the clip there is like, well, you are paying these coaches millions and millions of dollars. So like I would encourage people who are doing that to maybe have a clue of kind of what's going on out there.
Yeah, a big thing here, and I don't think she does this, but absolute big thing here, like you can't chime in.
No, I mean, I don't think that's
I don't think that's the case. Yeah, if there's a chime in, that's what I would expect from Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Jones chiming in, and even Jerry just kind of sits up there in his booth, it looks like, and kind of, having a mimosa and like, oh, we won, So, I mean,
we traded Michael Parsons and we won.
Apparently, I just sounded like Bobby Boucher. People are adding others. Steven are saying I sound like Bobby. I guess that's probably just because of the news of the day, which is AD will not be hiring the head football coach down here. We will not be AD hiring Donald Trump. You gonna hire our football coach? Lane Kiffin, come on down.
You're gonna work for $18 an hour.
My God, we'll get you set up with some crawfish etouffee. All right.
It's like a mixture of Bobby Boucher and I'd say Eddie Murphy.
Colonel Sanders?
I'd say Eddie Murphy and Nutty Professor.
Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, exactly.
I say,
Scott Woodward, how many buyout dollars are you going to collect for us, sir?
The more we could have this happen, the better off we'll all be.
Yeah.
So do we want to see Amy on a headset? Should Amy take notes from Carly Ursay Gordon and start listening to what's going on? Probably not. I mean, you got the interim coach right now, so maybe next hire. Get Mike McCarthy out there and Amy's on the headset.
Well, it's a great question. See, here's the thing.
Good call, Mike.
No, the thing is, if she were to do this, she would get killed.
Yeah, I know.
Because they stink. Right? That's what it is. It's no, I would advise her to, if somehow you luck out and some of these people you've hired hire other good people and somehow they pick some good football players and you get good, maybe at that point do it. Don't do it while you're this, because you're just going to be, but the Colts now, it's like, I swear to you, it's like random people in like the business world and like not even in the sports world are tweeting this out. And they're like, see, more organizations should be like this. It's like, this has been out there for months and mostly it got made fun of before we realized that they were going to be good at football.
Also, it's like, it's football, man. Like, I don't know how applicable this is to the corporate world of America.
You should spy on your employees.
You should listen in on the sales calls and coach them from the side over there. Oh.
Yeah,
but hey, good on her. It's going well in Indianapolis.
It is. And I mean, seriously.
And look, I will, in all seriousness, I do appreciate an owner that is clearly passionate about her product.
I mean, like what she said, especially, is like, you could save yourself millions. And I know we all look at these people like, yeah, you're a billionaire, but okay, still, you don't get rich by constantly making stupid money decisions, And I know some of these people just got rich because they got born. And hey, you're rich, but I'm just saying, you're trying to keep the money, you're trying to grow the money. And I as much as I'm making fun of this whole thing, I'm kind of like also on the bandwagon of I like it.
If Amy was on the headset, she could have prevented, a few years ago, Vrabel from trying to get Brett Kern killed.
She just runs down the sideline. Stop! Stop!
Mike, you can't call a fake punt with Brett Kern running. Devin White's out there. He's going to kill him. He's going to kill Kern.
I have high expectations.
Oh, boy. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I didn't even mean for this to turn into an Amy rip. I wasn't trying to do that.
I'm not ripping her. I'm just saying she should have been on the headset.
Nick's over there busted out the Amy greatest hits. Good stuff.
A giant
Good
catalog.
Stuff. Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Run, Cam. Save yourself. Oh, boy.
We have Charles Robinson with us coming up next. We'll get into the Titans and all things NFL with him. If you're looking for a great spot to pregame before the Titans game at Nissan Stadium, stop by John Bon Jovi's and pregame with 102.5 The Game. JBJ's has the best food on Broadway, cold beer, and cocktails and stunning skyline views, including 2 epic rooftops. Pregame show brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Circa Sportsbook Kentucky. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Frazier here with you on this Thursday morning. And it is Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, and that can only mean one thing. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com, and welcome in our good friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, gents. How you doing this morning?
Doing very well. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Charles, let's start on the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up on Tuesday. Number one, I guess in general around the league, how active do you expect it to be? And building off that, number two, the Titans basically have like one trade piece that could be of actual significance, and that's Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
And they have pretty much said publicly that they're not interested in trading him. Do you think that is a mistake? How do you view the Jeffrey Simmons part of this if you're the Titans?
Well, so the deadline in general, it's pretty slow, honestly. It's been, there's no trades that it really slows down after Tuesday of this week because everybody kind of gets into their game planning and everybody's moving forward. And so it'll really pick up obviously after the games are out this week, but just in general, when you talk to teams, I think because of the parity, so many teams are still sitting there in a holding pattern wondering, okay, so are we in it now? Like, what does this look like for us? I mean, most of the AFC North, other than the Steelers, I mean, you could argue that all those teams should be thinking about offloading players, and yet all of them are still sitting there. You get all these teams like 3 and 5 that are like, hey, we could still win this division. Like, we're not that far back. And so, I think that has a little bit of a chilling effect. I think the outcome of this weekend's games could loosen up the market pretty considerably, but it's slow. It's like, a lot of the players, Trey Hendrickson being banged up, Jeffrey Simmons not being available, which continues to be the party line out of the Titans. I just don't think there's a ton of big trade pieces out there right now. And everybody's looking to do these pick swaps rather than, offloading, just a player for picks. And you talk to some GMs and they're like, yeah, these pick swaps, like some teams are trying to get, they're trying to do pick swaps for talented players. And some of the GMs are looking at it like, I'd rather just, keep this guy and let him fall into the comp formula at this point. Like, the pick swap's not really that attractive to us. And so it's just slow right now. And it's, it kind of feels like there's a lot of bit players. If there is action, I don't know that any huge, pieces really get moved. And then as for the Titans, Simmons, I truly thought when Callahan was fired, I thought, okay, they're going to get calls on Simmons, and it makes sense, depending on how they're viewing their window for contention and being competitive. It makes sense that this guy would get dealt now because he's, going to be 29 years old next season, and he's got a couple years left on his deal. So that's attractive to teams to at least have some control, although I think everybody kind of knows they'd have to do a new deal if they brought him in. So maybe that's not as big a factor as I thought. But everything I have heard about the Titans, from what I understood, is Simmons is not going to be dealt, and young core is not going to be dealt. But if you want to make a call on any veterans, you want to make a call on anything but Simmons and young core, the Titans are hunting draft picks. They want draft picks. They want capital so they can, make hay with as big a draft class as possible. And that's just kind of where it stands right now. Could that change? I still think it could change. If they get a realistic, strong offer, I think they would have to consider it. And to me, considering that, like, I was talking to a GM and I said, we're kind of going over what teams had available, who they're shopping, kind of what teams are looking for. And we started talking about the Titans, and I was like, hey, from what I understand, they'd be willing to take some calls on, some of their veterans, maybe Kevin Zeitler is a guy that some teams would be interested in. And he said, look, teams are going to be interested in Simmons and not much else at this point, in terms of what they have to offer. And he said, but he brought up Brian Burns. And he said, look, Brian Burns went for a second and then a fifth and then a fifth pick swap. He said, and when Burns got traded, he was 25 turning 26. He's like, I don't know that they're going to get a first round, offer for Simmons. And he said, part of the problem that they have is teams aren't just going to look at this season. And, obviously it's got the hamstring now, which complicates things. And he said, but, they're going to look for the past couple of seasons. They're going to go, if Burns is second round, pick and a fifth and a fifth, pick swap, and you're going to have to pay Simmons too, like you had to pay Burns, who was 2 years younger. He said, you really think they're going to get a first out of that? And my thought process was, hey, there's some contending teams that could use him. And, maybe you take that flyer, especially if you get a feel that you can redo his deal on equitable terms. But, you see what Aiden Hutchinson just signed for, and that raises all boats again. And I got to believe any team that signs, redoes Jeffrey's deal to get at least 3 years of control is going to have to pay, a pretty healthy sum at this point. So it's complicated, I think, for the Titans. I don't know that they're going to get a first round pick offer just because of the factors of, the hamstring, looking at more and not just looking at this season of his performance, looking at the last couple of seasons of his performance. And then, what the trade market ended up being for a guy like Brian Burns, literally, in March of 2024, which isn't that long ago.
Well, they're not going to get a first, and I agree with their decision to not trade him.
Sure.
For sure.
Well, Joe, so here, let me ask you this. What if you think maybe you can be the Patriots? This isn't like a Mike Vrabel conversation, but let's remember.
Bring him up anymore.
Yeah, but let's remember the Patriots were in the tank, right?
Yep.
And we looked at the Patriots last year, and we said, okay, hey, Drake May looks like he's got some life, and there has to be a coaching change here, and but none of us thought they could pivot quick. I didn't think they could pivot quickly, and I knew at that point too. After they had hired Vrabel, all I heard out of the organization was, hey, they're gonna offload like a ton of the last couple of drafts. Like they've just been utter failures drafting players, and then that's ultimately what they did. They stripped it down, and yet they've turned, so quickly. So, I do think some teams, and the Titans, I would put the Titans among those because they do have some young players. It's, can we be the, obviously not the NFC, the team that goes to the NFC title game, but the 2024, Washington Commanders. That was another team where I was like, okay, well, yeah, they drafted Jaden Daniels, but this is going to be a multi-year build for them. Well, they drafted the right coach. They caught some breaks. They turned pretty quickly. Obviously, they've come down to earth a bit this year. But the same deal with the Patriots. I think they're catching some breaks right now. They got a favorable schedule. They hired a coach, and the culture's changed, and they're getting some performances out of some guys that are probably playing above their heads right now. And May's taking a big step, and so the idea that you can turn quickly, you want to have a Jeffrey Simmons on your roster, right? I would much rather have him than say a second and a fifth, right? I mean, it just.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He's a really good player.
I'm moving him. I'm seriously considering the first, and anything other than that, I agree about keeping him as, especially if this is what he's going to be. He's found this playing weight where he's really dynamic, and he has had injuries, but I mean, everything's a risk. So let me ask you this, Charles. I saw Albert Breer out here like the Browns should trade Myles Garrett. If I was trading for Myles Garrett, I think I might give Cleveland all the first round picks. Here, have everything. Yeah. We'll take them. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that's happening, right? But beyond that, what is the big one that you might, if there's one big one here coming that you could envision, or maybe two or three, what would that be?
Well, so Garrett, I was told literally yesterday, no, they're not trading him, and straight from the organization, we're not dealing him. And it's funny because there's this rumor going around, and I have not heard it out of the Eagles, but I've heard it from a couple of other high ranking people in other teams that are clearly on the phones, that, Howie Roseman and the Eagles are super hot after Myles Garrett, and how he'd give up like 3 first-round picks for him, which, if it's coming from the Eagles, those are 3 late firsts. So it's like even arguable when you get through the draft process, how many first-round grades do you really have? Maybe you have between 14 and 18 in a typical year. And that means that if you're drafting in the late 20s, early 30s, you're not even getting a player that's really considered on your board. Unless you're lucky, you're not getting a player that maybe you have a first-round grade on. But yeah, so that's kind of like this rumor that's out there that, hey, like Howie would really love a shot at him. But again, I was told by the Browns, they're not interested in moving him. I think the Browns would be okay if somebody wants to make a call on like the running back depth, one of these veterans that they have in terms of running back depth, and then also defensive end depth, like edge depth, but not Myles. So I just don't think, they're interested in moving him. He's just too dominant a player right now for them. And that is definitely a team that I feel like there is a thought process internally. We do have players here. Like, we can make some changes here. And if we can resolve the quarterback situation, we can be competitive very fast. Now, I don't know. It could be changes there. Who knows with the coaching staff at this point. I mean, I think there's definitely some things up in the air for Cleveland. When you ask me in terms of like a big player, I still think Hendrickson is like the one where, he's so clearly not going back to Cincinnati after this season. So it's like, I don't know why.
Jets loss just happened.
Yeah. And it's, he's banged up and he's definitely, I think, a team acquiring him. It would most likely be a rental situation, but you look at like San Francisco. I don't think San Francisco is completely done. Like, I know they're still kicking around the idea of adding a corner. But I think if they had a shot at Hendrickson, I think they would try to make that happen. Right now, their defense is playing remarkably well despite losing all these players. But I don't think they would want to. At 5-3, I think they're like, hey, if we can go get Hendrickson, we can still have an effective, maybe middle of the pack defense, over the course of the season. But that would be good enough once we start to get some of these offensive players healthy, to be able to compete. And the NFC feels like it's, I don't want to say totally wide open, but Joe, you said last week you picked the Chiefs like as being that team that, I would not want to be anywhere near the AFC right now with the Chiefs being what they're turning into again. And so I think in the NFC, you probably feel like you still have an ability to compete. Other guys,
It's disrespect to the Packers, Robbie.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I'm sorry, man. We need it. I'm sorry, Robbie, but like Robbie's like pride guy of the Packers. But like you go through the game experience with Robbie, like the first quarter he hates him, second quarter he loves him, third quarter he hates him, fourth quarter he loves him.
I can neither confirm nor deny my feelings from Matt LaFleur.
Robbie, I have the receipts. I have the text receipts.
Yeah. Mostly bitching about Matt LaFleur. Mostly.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Jordan Love was outstanding the other night, though.
He was.
But look, other guys, I think the Dolphins, if you were like, throw me like a wild, like Jalen Waddle getting dealt would be pretty wild. But the Dolphins, I mean, there's a lot of players I think you could make calls on there, including some of their young guys. I don't know how you feel about like a Breece Hall. There's another guy that I think he's a name that would raise some eyebrows, especially depending on who goes and gets him. So
young guy like Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, Phillips. Yeah. I think Phillips. You can make a call on Phillips for sure. He's I look at this stage. I just don't see the recovery happen for the Dolphins, and I don't see there not being a coaching change there. I don't think me personally, I don't think there's a big second half turnaround there for the Dolphins. And then the one guy I would say, I still think there's a chance Kirk Cousins, like I think the Minnesota Vikings, now that they've lost Carson Wentz for the rest of the season, Kirk would love to go back to Minnesota. And I think he would do whatever he needed to make that happen, even if it was in a backup role. And I think if you're the Vikings, you're sitting there and you're going, we're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy, but, we'll see, what's going to happen here. And I do think he was legitimately injured. Maybe have they played it very, very conservative, more than they necessarily had to? Yeah, I think a little bit. So I almost wonder if the Falcons were like, look, we're not using, like, he's not going to be, he's not factoring here. Michael Penix is coming back and we're good. Let's at least explore whether we can offload Kirk for, save a little bit of money and pretty much trade him for nothing at this point. I would have to believe that the Vikings would at least consider that, because the Vikings, it wasn't like the Vikings hated Kirk. It was for what the money was going to be and what the commitment was going to be. It wasn't going to work out. But I think now that Kirk's been in Atlanta for a while, I think Kirk would go back to Minnesota without needing a commitment. I think he loves it there enough, and there's still this chance that McCarthy doesn't work out for the Vikings, and they would need, Kirk down the stretch.
So, Charles, we, in talking about the Titans in the show today, we've talked about obviously how important drafting is moving forward and how much of a hit rate they're going to have. Well, the team that's had a great hit rate is the Detroit Lions. And you mentioned the Hutchinson contract, 4 years, $180 million. What do you make of not only that deal, but the drafting that they've been able to do and how they've been able to really put together a roster through the draft that is a good problem to have, where you're having to pay a whole lot of your picks second deals here?
Yeah, I mean, they're paying everybody, but I mean, it's like, it's kind of justified. Like, it's crazy that if you're like a Cowboys fan and you heard we can't pay Micah and pay all these other guys, and then you look at the Lions and you're like, the Lions have like $1 billion in contract, guaranteed money out there, and you're like,
all for no championships.
You're right. For no championships. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty stunning when you consider the amount of guys that they've extended. But then also, like you said, Robbie, like they've just been so good drafting players. I mean, it's remarkable. And you sit there and you're like, okay, well, next year you got to pay, let's see, Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch and Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta. And you're like, at some point, someone's not going to be able to be extended here, right? And the Lions are not. They're just like, you know what, we'll figure it out. I wouldn't be surprised if they added some AI and some capologists in the off season to see if they can somehow figure out how to keep this thing from hitting an iceberg in terms of the salary cap. But yeah, I mean, that's when you talk about an organization where they've just hit everything from a draft standpoint. The Jared Goff trade worked out, so heavily in their favor. We were talking about on the podcast yesterday, and I said, I have a hard time remembering a team that was so much considered a wasteland when you would get to like free agency, and it was the Lions were perennially, you're not going there. Like, the agents were like, we're not even going to consider, Detroit as a viable place for you, because you're going to go and that's the end of your career, and there's not going to be any extensions after that, and you just don't want to go near there. And then now it's like the complete opposite. Now it's like, it's a very, very attractive place to go because of the culture, because of the fact that they're in this Super Bowl window, and now they've paid all these guys to solidify this Super Bowl window for a number of years. And then also they're paying people, like agents are like, oh, the Lions they must be selling a lot of cars like the Ford family, because that everybody, and the crazy thing is too, it's not like you're not looking at these deals and going, wow, big savings there. No, they're paying like market deals for like everybody. You make Aiden Hutchinson the highest paid non-quarterback. When they did the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, I remember, there were so many teams that were like, what are they doing? They gave 4 years and 120 for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it like screwed up deals, wide receiver deals that some other teams were doing. Like the 49ers were like, they were just like, we're screwed now with Ayuk because of the Amon-Ra deal. And yet Amon-Ra has done what?
It's a bargain.
Signed that deal.
It's a good deal.
I mean, he's been unbelievable. He's just been like nonstop, just cranks for them. So, yeah, if I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, I'm going to hire a new general manager, I would definitely look at the Lions and go, who inside that organization right now is someone that we could pick off in terms of a general manager, and kind of see if we can onboard whatever their process is when it comes to, drafting and culture building inside that team.
Does that process include, and I'm asking for them, but also if there's other teams who I guess have the same philosophy? Like I get the feel like every year it seems like Lions fans are like, oh, you got to trade for this guy, you got to trade for that guy. And I feel like obviously so far they really have not gotten into that. But you could make the case, like if you're this close, sometimes it's okay to part with some draft capital. Are they like absolutely against that? And are there other teams that are good that feel the same way?
I don't think they're against it, but I think they've had so much success with draft capital. Plus, remember, they're paying all these guys. They really need draft capital because they need rookie contracts. They need to balance this out because they're getting so top heavy with contracts, and now it's on both sides of the ball. They need to be able to hit on, basically do what they've done, hit on young players who can come in and give you a couple of years of really, really high level play. The Kirby Josephs, the Brian Branches, the Amon-Ra, even like a Penei Sewell. If you got a pick that high, make sure you hit on them and then get super high level play for a couple of years, and it allows you to extend and do these other deals. So I think part of the reason why maybe you're reticent to part with capital is they're like, okay, well now we're getting another highly paid veteran, but what are we giving up? And, how much does that hurt us when we need to draft a player for depth or potentially a starting spot and balance out all the expenses that we're putting out there? Like last year, who'd they deal for the end? I'm having a
Zadarius Smith.
Here. Yeah, Zadarius Smith. Like that to me is the kind of deal I think the Lions would be looking at. I almost wondered, I was like, if their line was banged up enough, if they'd call the Titans and go, hey, can we get Zeitler back? like just even if it's for, just the rest of this season. But I think that's really more what they're hunting for at this point, is just a team that's dumping, at all their positions and really isn't looking for anything more than, 5th, 6th round capital, or a pick swap situation. And likely also like a rental, not someone that they think they're going to want to extend. So I don't know. I don't think, and by the way, I don't know if they really feel like at this stage they need to go get anything at this point. Like I think they feel like they're in pretty good spot, especially if guys come back healthy and they can get some guys kind of on track. Like Jameson Williams right now, I think they're a little upset. Like not upset, but I think they're like, we could be getting more out of this guy right now. Maybe Sam Laporta, we could be getting a little bit more consistently out of him. I think they feel like there's still some growth internally to work out over the course of the season.
So, Charles, the Ravens in action tonight, taking on the Dolphins. An interesting situation with them last week when Lamar Jackson was designated as a full participant in practice on Friday, and that was retroactively changed to limited the next day. John Harbaugh said it was an honest mistake and that there's no foul play or nobody trying to hide anything there. But what did you make of that? And what did you make of kind of the Ravens, their explanation for it heading into the game against now I've already forgotten who they played last week. Who did they play?
Bears.
The Bears.
They beat the Bears by 2 touchdowns with Huntley at quarterback.
Yeah. No, I mean, come on, guys. It was crazy. Like it was, I know most fans are just like, what's the big deal over all this? But I'm like, what was the line? It was like, I think it was like 6. I think it was the Bears plus 6.5.
Yes.
And then it went, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Lamar was a full participant. And then it was like Bears plus 2. And like, it just, I think it like swung so wildly. And I was just stunned because when I saw the participation on Friday, I was like, oh, Lamar's playing. And I literally remember having a conversation on Friday with another team. We were kind of just shooting it, and Lamar kind of came up. I think we were talking about Harbaugh, and I was like, oh, I said, but Lamar's back. They got 4 or 5 kind of like winnable games in the next month or so, and they can turn around fast. And then all of a sudden the next day when they come out and they're like, yeah, he was a full participant, but not in a starter capacity.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's a completely weird, and it just felt like such a flashpoint because of what was going on in the NBA.
Yeah.
And the fact that this was something that moves the line, and you're just having all these conversations about. I after all the NBA stuff came down, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, if you're the NFL and you're like, over the course of the season, we got like 2,000 players who come through our rosters, and there's prop bets on so many of those guys. I'm like, how on earth is the NFL going to avoid having it almost feels like an inevitability that there's going to be somebody that tries to fiddle with their prop bets, at some point with gambling and gets caught for it. And, I know people are like, well, you can't affect the outcome of games. Well, you don't have to affect the outcome of games now to be profitable. It's the prop bet world has made it easy for, as long as you just don't raise enough red flags and don't curry enough attention, you can make money, screwing with your prop bets. And, so that to me, the fact that the Ravens thing happened kind of in the midst of all this, definitely, just kind of felt like, man, the NFL, this is a nightmare. I'll be really curious to see how the NFL ultimately deals with it. And, some teams are like, yeah, maybe, or kind of giving Harbaugh the benefit of the doubt. And I think they're the ones that are willing to be generous and be like, hey, yeah, they probably weren't screwing around, is because of the fact that it was the week that it was, because of the fact it was like the NBA stuff that just happened and everybody was talking about it. And it would just be sheer stupidity to try to screw around with what Lamar's designation was in the teeth of what had just happened with the NBA. But I'd be curious to know, like, I'm telling you, the prop bet thing to me is just, I just don't know how the NFL's. I still think it's crazy when the NFL started to embrace gambling. I felt like the thought process was, when you talk to people around the league and kind of where it was going, that the red line was going to be players can't bet on NFL games, and they sure as heck can't bet on their teams in any way, shape, or form. And if they do, they'll be done for good. Teams will never touch them. It'll be over for good. We have two guys in the NFL right now. Calvin Ridley is one of them. Now I know it was a parlay. It wasn't a lot of money. Like, I know all the reasons for it. I get that. But he did bet on the Falcons, and it was part of a parlay bet. And then you have Isaiah Rodgers, who's a guy who, when he was with the Colts, did bet on Colts games. And yet now didn't bet on to lose. He didn't bet on them in like sort of this dispositive way where it's like, but again, and these guys are still in the league. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not the red line anymore. It'll screw your career up, man. It'll put you through some stuff, but it's still survivable to make that mistake, make, huge error in judgment, and you can get past it. So then what's the line? Like, what's the red line? What do you guys think is it just, if you bet against your team,
that's it? I think that's it.
Well, that's certainly, yeah.
That's a crazy.
I know it's a dangerous game to play, but I think that may be it.
Considering where we came from, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the NFL was like, we are not going to talk about gambling. We hate gambling. We're going to testify before Congress in these, federal cases about gambling. Like, and then now we're to the point where the line that we thought was uncrossable is not necessarily uncrossable to hurt you. But now that's moved to, if you bet on your teams in a way where, you're losing. Man, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's a wild world we're in all of a sudden.
It has changed. Yep. Charles, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. We will talk to you post-trade deadline next week, my friend.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good weekend.
Yep, you as well. Charles Robinson, our guest, joins us every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. Lots there from Charles. We'll react to that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Calgary Flames coming up at Bridgestone Arena this Saturday. Puck drop at 2:30. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Flames at Bridgestone Arena coming up this Saturday. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Speaking of this Saturday, you got the Preds game going on. You got Tennessee and Oklahoma going on in a basically playoff game that night. Vanderbilt taking on Texas. By the way, that pregame begins at 9:30 on 94.9 The Fan. Kickoff at 11 a.m. Vanderbilt football brought to you by Gary Force Acura, Jimmy Kelly's Steakhouse, and Smoky Mountain Tops. Appreciate Charles Robinson for being with us in the last segment. It was interesting, Joe, to get his thoughts on the Jeffrey Simmons part of this because it kind of lines up with what we were talking about earlier. You know, I said it. This whole thing started, and it was like, yeah, I don't really know if you can get a first-round pick for Jeffrey Simmons, right? Like, it just seems like a lot. And then you watched him play throughout the year, and it's like, well, he's playing at such a high level right now. Maybe you can get a first-round pick. And then for some Titans fan, it's like, well, I'd only consider trading him if it was a first-round pick and like a third-round pick. And it's like, well, they're not getting that. Like, they're not getting a first and something else for Jeffrey Simmons. I would be stunned if that took place. And Charles said in the last segment that based on some people he's talked to, he doesn't even know if they could get a first-round pick by itself on that thing. So, like, to me, if they can't do that, then I guess I'm with you. That I'm not moving on from Jeffrey Simmons at that point.
Yeah. No, if it's not a first, I'm not doing it the way he's playing because, look, I think it is possible that he has found something, that he has gotten past the injury. I know he's got the hammy right now, so it's hard to say gotten past the injuries when he's hurt, but you know, a hamstring injury is not the same as some of the stuff that he had previously. He can be, again, in the NFL, I think again, some of the discussion around Jeffrey Simmons comes back to, and I've seen people, even who cover the NFL, who say these things, and it's like, do you not pay attention? This idea of like the 5-year plan or the years and years to flip a team. I mean, look, you need to, along the way, have some core players that you can go forward with, but you can flip a team quickly. You know, bring it to the Lions again. We talk a lot of Lions. They were absolute buns in 22, right? 21, they were like the worst team in the league. 22, they started to get competitive. 23, they should have been in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Worst team in the league in 21, should have been in the Super Bowl in 23. Titans, number 1 seed in the AFC in 21. Losing team, coach fired in 23. Things swing wildly in this league. So the point being, the Titans in 2027 opening that stadium, if they do the right thing, that's the huge if they make way more good choices than bad, which has not happened around here in a long time, but it's possible. And if they do in 2027, they can be a good football team. They can be a team that can contend for the playoffs, which sounds miles away, but they can. And if that's the case, and you have Jeff Simmons at 30, well, you're glad you have Jeff Simmons. Again, as long as he doesn't suffer a disastrous injury. And I think he's going to still be a good football player.
Yeah. Is he going to be what he's been this year? I don't know.
Yeah,
I need to see a longer, I guess, period of sample size before I'm willing to go there. But again, like if you're not getting a first-round pick for it, like to me, the appeal for trading Jeffrey Simmons would be that. It would be adding another first-round pick to the bucket there to help you fill needs on a roster that's got an absolute just laundry list of needs. So if you're not going to get that, then I don't know how much time you spend talking about it if you're the Titans at that point. But I just, it is amazing how like wildly the conversation around that has shifted from the fan base and even with some of the media of like, well, I'm not sure when the season began that you could even approach a first round pick. And now it's like, I won't trade him for anything less than a first and a third. It's like, well, it's not happening. So we'll see. And the Titans have put it out there that they're not moving him. Charles has heard that they're not moving him. So I don't think they're going to move him. Like, I think Jeffrey Simmons is just going to be here.
Yeah. It's just, he did say, and like we said earlier, doesn't mean it can't change.
Yep.
So, okay, phone lines are open. So we get close to the deadline and someone says, yeah, like think about the difference that he would make and we're so close and it's a go for it move. Okay. Well then great. Let's talk. But yeah, if the line is drawn under a first-round pick, then I think it's a pretty easy decision.
And then you can call about some other veteran players if you want to. Teams around the league for the Titans. I don't know who those would be at the moment.
Please call us. Well, someone on the text line, I'd rather trade Tony Pollard. I'm like, I don't know that. I guess you get a 7th. What are you getting for Tony Pollard?
Yeah, I mean, if you got a 6th, I'd be like, yep, go ahead, I guess.
Right. What team is looking at Tony Pollard that would be a buyer at the deadline that would say that guy is going to get major carries for us? I don't think there is one. I guess we could go through them all and say this particularly really good team, but just has no running backs. I don't think that exists. No. If I'm wrong, hit me up.
Kansas City doesn't
run
the ball very well, but
Pacheco's.
Yeah, but he's
and even Kareem Hunt. I mean, like right now, would you take Kareem Hunt in his state or Tony Pollard? I'd probably give Kareem Hunt a slight edge
with what they do. Yeah, 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More to react to on the Charles Robinson front, the NFL trade deadline front. We'll continue to take your thoughts on that. Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Check out our NFL game of the week this Sunday, the Jaguars and the Raiders at 3:05 on 94.9 The Fan. NFL game of the week presented by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky and Macero in 12 South. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, the NFL trading deadline. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Welcome in Trey to the program. Trey, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, y'all know what we could get for Tony Pollard for trade?
What's that?
A bag of bones.
Man, you crack yourself up, Trey. Did you say a bag of bones?
Yeah.
This sounds kind of morbid. I know it's Halloween, but we killing people? What do we got? We got corpses walking around here?
Hey, he can take his 3-yard running, 4-yard running tail out of the Titans facility because he hasn't done really much as far as helping us get to where we need to be. And another thing I don't like about him is like he can run for 100 yards and we'll need a touchdown. We'll be down there in the red zone, and what he'll do, either lose yards or fumble the ball. And I don't understand why we put so much stock in the Tony Pollard, and he has absolutely done nothing for this football team this year. That's what we need to get for him, a bag of bones. And y'all have a good day. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it. Trey?
I've heard the bag of balls. Bag of bones?
I never heard of that before.
What the hell's that mean?
Trey, who we confirmed earlier this week, watched the Titans for the first time.
Tony Pollard's the worst running back I've ever heard in my life. His running sounds terrible.
When he drops the ball on the ground, when I hear it through the radio, it's a terrifying sound.
You know, his cuts just don't sound sharp.
Oh, man. Well,
we love you too, Trey.
Trey?
Now I wait for all the people on the text lines to start screaming about Trey.
Trey and Adam from Portland take some heat on our text line.
They do.
There's no doubt.
Maybe Trey and Adam can debate at some point.
Trey and Adam show? Podcast?
We don't have Jared versus Joe anymore. How about Trey versus Adam?
Maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is if you're trading, I mean, I guess you could throw Tony Pollard in there. Tony Pollard, Arden Key.
I bet you Key gets
Draymond
moved.
Jones, like guys like that. I mean, you're getting very, very minimal returns for those guys.
Yeah, you're stockpiling day 3 picks that you hope you could take a few of them and then get into like the 4th.
Yeah.
And that's right. So, and the more you have, the more possibility there is of doing that. But it's not moving the needle much, but it's also, if it's guys who definitely aren't going to be part of the future, great. This season is a wash, and we all know it is. That's where McCreary, a little bit different situation for me because I could make the case for him to be part of your future, but that ship has sailed anyway. So, but I think Key I think he'd probably be my most likely because he's a guy teams can look at and say, you know what, that guy can give us a little third down juice here and there.
Yeah.
Get us some pressures, get us a sack here and there. Sure. Throw him a 6.
Oh, and by the way, Arden Key dealing with a quad injury right now, did not practice yesterday again. Calvin Ridley, who other people have talked about being traded, dealing with a hamstring injury, did not practice yesterday again. So
not great timing.
Some of these guys we're talking about being traded at the moment are not available. So there's also that factors into this too, which leads me to believe that we probably won't see a whole lot of action between now and trade deadline day as it relates to the Tennessee Titans. I think some of their moves, I mean, they've already traded Brownlee and McCreary. So you've made 2 moves at that point. I don't know how much more we're going to see. Because, frankly, like if your other teams out there, if it's not going to be Simmons, are you really all that interested in Calvin Ridley? Are you really all that interested in Arden Key now?
Yeah, again, I'm going to predict Key gets moved because so many teams feel like we could use a little more pass rush. Why? A little bit of depth at pass rush. Again, a guy who can throw in there. I'm going to predict that Key gets moved, despite the situation. Yeah, I'm with you. There are teams definitely that could use another receiver too, but I do think the Ridley injury hurts the deal. And like PK was saying, there is sort of the reputation of it takes more time for him, it seems, to settle in, and you don't have time. This is someone who's got to hit the ground running. So my prediction is 1 move, Arden Key.
By the way, Mandor
for a 6th round pick.
Mandor on the injury list too. Shoulder injury, did not practice yesterday. So we'll monitor that the rest of the week too.
Oh, that's good. Now you get a team like this. Gets cold out there.
Yeah.
You start getting pushing toward November, and an injury list really starts to grow.
Chargers are a 9.5-point favorite in this game. This is, I believe, the first time we've talked about the Chargers and the Titans.
Yeah, we mentioned the Chargers were their opponent one time. We have not talked about the game at all, which I think is probably appropriate.
Probably fitting. Chargers a 9.5-point favorite on the road against the Titans this week. And they don't,
Sounds about right.
Like I said yesterday, there's not, I don't know that I've ever in my life met a Chargers fan. I know they exist, but I don't know that I've ever actually met one. So I don't know how full the stadium's going to be this week.
Dan Fouts said, hey, I can tell you when the Chargers fans used to be abundant.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's they are banged up, not playing well, and they're still 9.5-point faves on the road. Someone real quick asked, is Borgonzi making these moves, or is it Brinker pulling the strings? And Borgonzi doing what Brinker tells him. I think it's Borgonzi running the personnel operation, but I think everything goes by Brinker at least, right?
I would say so.
But I have no idea. I can't answer your question. I don't know. Does Brinker go in there and veto this and veto that? I don't know.
Amy's been on the headset all week. She keeps the headset on throughout the week. Mike, they're calling from Houston on line 2.
She can sit there in Houston and look at it. She got the cameras. She can just listen, click on this room, click on that room.
Don't you dare trade Tony Pollard. That does it for us today here on the program. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.